I'm trying to think of some clever segue to get me to my next guests after the Imagine Dragons, but I just can't come up with it. It's biologist versus physicist time, and if you're lucky, they'll work as a team to answer whatever science questions that you may have. The number that you need is 1300 222 936. 1300 222 936. You can ask via text as well, so that number is 0438 922 936. Biologist Dom Geraghty, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
And we've got our physicist, Denis Visentin. Hello, Denis, how are you?
G'day, good, thanks.
Now, we were just talking when you walked in the studio about platypus and how we talk about more than one platypus, and I know that this has been discussed many a time, but why not get the ball rolling on this, Dom? What do you reckon?
Oh, well, I was very lucky as an Irishman to actually work with platypuses for about 3 or 4 years when a lovely old vet by the name of Barry Mundy got me involved in it. And I immediately said, oh, platypi. And he said, no, it's Greek, not Latin, so therefore the plural of platypus is platypus. And then the anglicised version of it is plural is platypuses, but people constantly argue with me about it.
Okay, so you believe it's, how would you'd say platypuses?
I would say platypus for plural as well as singular.
There were many platypus in the stream.
There were.
That would be to use it in a sentence. Okay, and how often do you correct people if they get it wrong, and then do you go into
every opportunity, because it makes me look smart, because I know the difference between Latin and Greek.
If you'd like to argue with Dom, 1300 222 936, 1300 222 936. We've had some questions that have already come in, and I'm going to start with them. If you're listening at home or in the car and you want to ask a question, 1300 222 936. Vegetables that are bright in colour, are they better for you?
If you say bright and bright green, yes, that means they contain quite a large number of, most likely, flavonoids. And flavonoids are antioxidants. They're supposed to lower cholesterol. They're supposed to do all of the things that we are all supposed to be doing to keep ourselves healthy. So
just bright and green? What about bright in yellow or bright in red?
Bright in yellow, bright in red means carotenoids, which means that they're also antioxidants, which also means they're good for you, and of course, you know, good for your eyes if you want to listen to what the rabbits tell you. If you can understand rabbits, you're really doing very well, and you probably need more types of medication.
Okay, so look for the bright ones, not the dull colours, in your grocery supermarket.
No, green and red, or green and orange, are normally pretty good indicators of healthy food.
Okay, there you go. 1300 222 936. You're agreeing with that, Denis?
Avoid the blue ones.
It's a good tip. Good tip for anyone. I've also had the question asked today, does your heart beat in two different ways when it's increasing the blood circulation around the body? Now, I think this is something that somebody has noticed in themselves. One where it goes fast and one where it seems to beat harder.
Okay, so many moons ago, I tried to what was called evoke the sympathetic response in a classroom full of students by screaming my head off just at the drop of a hat. And, of course, everybody's heart rate speeds up, their pupils dilate. Normally, when we talk about increasing the circulation of blood around the body, we normally increase both force, so you can feel it pumping harder, and you can also increase the rate, which means that it's going faster. Often on recovery from that increase in blood flow, you can feel your heart as it slows down. You can actually feel it still bumping a bit harder. So it's a bit of a mixture of both.
Okay, nice. I like it. We've got Michael on the phone from Westbury. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
What's your question?
Well, I'd just like to know, quite often just prior to a big clap of thunder or lightning, the rain will cease or it will get a lot lighter just prior to the event. And I want to know if there's a reason for it. Is it just me or is there a reason for that?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. The existence of lightning suggests perhaps a different type of rain which might be shorter in duration. And so it might just be associated with, shorter or more intense rain showers. And so that might just lead to us thinking that they might end a little bit earlier. But, yeah, I can't think of any particular reason why that would be the case.
Okay, has that answered your question a little bit, Michael?
Oh, well, no, not really, but that's okay.
What
if you've got some further evidence of it, I'd be interested.
Oh, well, for me, it happens a lot. So when you've got a storm coming over, it just seems the rain seems to certainly lighten off or cease, and then you'll get a hell of a clap of thunder or lightning, and then it'll come in heavy again. And it just seems to me there must be a scientific reason why that occurs, because it occurs a lot. I don't know whether anybody else out there has any idea, but yeah, I'd love to know the answer.
Okay. Oh, Dom, go.
We'll consult with the climatologist guys down in Hobart, and we'll come back with an answer the next time we're on. How about that?
There you go, Michael. How does that sound? We'll get back to you.
Bye.
Okay, that is Michael in Westbury. It's 2:15. It is 2:16. I'm Penny Terry. It's nice to be sharing your Monday afternoon, a lovely spring day for most parts around Tasmania. Robert is from Bellreeve. How are you, Robert?
Oh, pretty good, thanks.
That's good. What's your question?
Oh, it's about jet engines or jet planes. When I go to the airport, Hobart or anywhere, I see a two-engine plane, two engines on underside of each wing, and I see the exhaust coming out from those two. But out the back of the plane is another exhaust. Now, for an exhaust, you've got to have an intake. I don't know where the intake for the plane is. So you've got three exhausts, but two intakes.
I tell you what, Robert, they have got their concentration faces on in here. Denis, what do you think?
It's at this point I realise why I dropped out of engineering and went into theoretical physics. I agree with you. You've got to have an intake for that engine.
It's very small, so it's only about maybe 20 centimetres in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would be somewhere. And
I can't see a hole where the intake's going to come from.
Yeah, I just wonder whether there's some
series of vents.
Vent from one of the other engines or...
It's got to go through the wings then, hot air going through the wings and out the back. That sounds crazy.
Unlikely.
When you go into the back of the plane, you'll notice it out the back of the plane, behind the tail.
I think this is where we call on aeronautical engineers that are listening to call the program and help us out. Would that be a good answer?
That would be very helpful, I think.
You've stumped them. Well done, Robert.
I do have another one, though.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Because I work as a tour guide, and I talk about tannin in the streams. You get brown water, especially on the west coast, and that's from the button grass. But there's also a froth. You see it on the Franklin River, down at Strawn as well. And, of course, the froth, I think, is from the tannin. But I don't know how the tannin... Well, no. What is the froth? Yeah, and it's harmless. I mean, I've put it on my face and acted like Santa Claus. I show it to the tourists and give them a laugh. I even put it on my tongue and say, look, it tastes all right, but no one wants to follow me. So, because it kind of looks like I'm, touching sewer water or something like that, because it looks bad.
Okay, so what's clean. The froth there for? Any idea, guys?
Oh, I think there's so many compounds, particularly after heavy rain, when they wash out a lot of different, as you say, tannins, whatever it might be, from the soil and from vegetation. There is a reasonable amount of, I would call it like detergent inside natural detergents, and that would froth up and make the bubbles. But I wouldn't actually be rubbing it on my face or putting it on my tongue, at least in large amounts.
He's still alive at this stage. Okay. Well, does that answer some of the question for you?
Well, I'll just add to that.
So the answer is some sort of detergent.
A natural detergent.
Well, a detergent is, what we call a surface active agent, and there are lots of different things that can act like that. And so, when you agitate the water, so you fill your sink with detergent and you leave it there, it doesn't froth, but you need some agitation. Yeah, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a chemical. There are natural soaps. I mean, soaps are made from animal fat, so I can't think of exactly what it would be, but anything that's got basically a polymer with something on the end, like sodium stearate, for instance, is what we naturally make soap from. So anything that's got a long chain and then one end's different will act as a surface active agent, would froth.
Okay, because it's natural, I think it's okay. That's all.
Yeah, you keep eating it, mate.
Hey, I'm natural, man.
Don't try this at home, and I think that is the disclaimer for this whole section of this program. But thanks for the call anyway. That's Robert in Bellreeve. I think we did have somebody who was ready and waiting with an answer for the jet plane question, but we've lost them on the line. Matthew, if you could call back for us, that would be brilliant. In the meantime, I've got Don from Hobart, who maybe also has a jet plane. Oh, no, Don's not there. I don't know where Don has gone. Anyway, we'll carry on because I've got another question that's already in the bank. Oh, no, Don's back. Okay, the phones are going crazy. Don, how are you?
Okay.
The jet planes, what's going on?
Oh, that third exhaust that was mentioned, a question was asked, it comes from the air conditioning system.
Okay, can you explain that a bit more?
Well, he was asking, said there's two exhausts out of the engines, and there's another exhaust on the right on the tail unit. And I'm absolutely certain that exhaust is only from any air conditioning in the plane.
Nothing to do with the engines at all.
Nothing at all.
So you've got it. Oh, okay. Right.
There you go, Don. Thank you. You've helped us out this afternoon. You might get a job on the panel next week. That's Don in Hobart.
Come on down.
We've been bumped.
And look, another question that came through is, why, when you're looking at your petrol gauge in the car, does it seem that the first part of your tank empties much quicker than the second part? Or is that just my car? Do I need to buy a new one?
It could be because you're more interested in the second one. There is the possibility of parallax error. Parallax is when you're looking at a dial. This is probably more for the speedo than anything, but now we're going to automated things computerized dials. It doesn't work as much. But if you've got a dial that's sitting off the face that's containing the numbers, two different observers looking from different vantage points will see a different reading on the dial. So if you're looking straight on, you see the correct reading. If you look at it from side on, you see an incorrect reading. I use parallax error as an argument that I'm actually not speeding. It's just that you're sitting next to me and it looks like I'm going 120, whereas actually if you're looking from my point of view, you see it as 110.
So that's how you do with a backseat driver?
That's right.
And older cars, in fact, it might actually happen because the dials were not digital, they were analog, and they used to, what's called a log pot, if I remember correctly, and the actual numbers on the dial were incorrect, and it was actually going faster as you got to the end. So very old cars, you may find that the actual dial is moving faster as it moves towards empty. When I say very old, I'm talking 20, 30-year-old cars.
Yeah, that seems pretty old. Okay, there you go. Answering it 2 it is on 936 ABC Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. I've got Dom and Denis in the studio to answer your science questions. The number that you need is 1300 222 936, 1300 222 936. Someone else has asked, towels, if you hang them on the line on a rainy day, will they get more wet if they're hung vertically or hung horizontally?
My question would be, why are you hanging out your washing on a rainy day?
That was my question too. Just say you did because you were preparing.
Right. Of course, hanging them lengthways is a very inefficient use of the Hills hoist. I don't think there's probably any other reason why it would... No,
you'll just end up with wet washing. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
But so same surface area, is there either way that they'll get wetter? Unless
you're looking at horizontal rain like we had a few weeks ago where it was coming in at a particular angle, but it's still the same surface area, so
doesn't matter.
If they got really, really waterlogged and they had to drip off, I could imagine that the ones horizontal would actually... drip more effectively because they've got a longer bottom length. But apart from that, I can't see any real reason.
If you're in the situation where you knew it was going to rain, but you had to hang your clothes on the line, and you knew it was probably going to be fine afterwards, then you might hang it horizontally. It would dry quicker.
In that unlikely situation, yes.
And very, very strange logic, yes.
That's the answer. It is 2. Michael's called through from Hobart. Hi, Michael.
Hello. You were talking about the plural of platypus.
Yep.
What's the plural of mongoose?
Brilliant question, Michael.
That is a good one.
The reason I ask is this, that I read about a fellow that was starting a private zoo in America, and he wrote to a company that provided animals and said, "Dear sir, please send me to mongoose." He thought, that's not right. "Please send me to mongooses." He thought, that doesn't sound right either. "Please send me to mongai." In the finish, he wrote, "Dear sir, send me a mongoose. P.S. Send me another."
I have a feeling it's actually mongoose. I think
mongoose. I think it's the plural.
It's the same as platypus.
Yes, but it's not to do. I don't think it's anything to do with Latin or Greek. I just think it's simply the way in which that's the English.
They gave up on all the other possibilities.
They gave up. Yeah, they gave up.
They sounded ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Michael. That's a beautiful story. If we're talking about Greek versus Latin, when it comes to fish and sheep, and I'm trying to think of other animals where the plural is the same as the singular, what's with fish and sheep? Are they derived from Greek?
No, that's Anglo-Saxon there.
It is Anglo-Saxon. So it's and don't forget that English is people say that learning something like Latin or Greek or French is very, very difficult. Ask any of our overseas students at the University of Tasmania, they'll tell you that English is the most difficult language because it is a mixture. It's Indo-Germanic and it's got a bit of Celtic in there. It's got a bit of everything. So the answer is that it's just whatever the English made up
at the time. Run with it. There is
that's my views. I'm probably wrong, and the English specialist will probably phone me up and say you're talking rubbish, Dominic.
Actually, in English, a lot of the words for our animals are Anglo-Saxon, but the words for the meat are French. Or have French origin from the Norman conquest.
Yeah, jamón. Yeah. Which is like Spanish, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, for bacon, ham, pork. Yes. Okay, John's called through from Hobart. He's on the... Oh, hang on. Is that John? Might be on line 3, actually. Hello, John. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
That's good. Now, tell me about the planes.
Oh, about the exhaust on the tail of those aircraft. They have got a small jet engine in there that runs an auxiliary power while the planes are taxiing on the runway or when you first get on board.
What's it called?
They have got I've been told on good authority because I asked the question, what is that little exhaust on there?
Much like has been asked today. Who knew? It was perplexing so many people.
So apparently a lot of the planes have got a small engine that's got the power supply while the planes are stationary, while the main engines are not running.
Okay, look, I think, John, we've got somebody else who might be able to help us with this. He's an ex-pilot. It's Barry in Launceston. Hi, Barry.
Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Tell me what's going on with the exhaust on planes.
Well, the rear exhaust is simply the exhaust from the auxiliary power unit, a small jet engine, which is in the rear of the aircraft, which on the ground supplies power for air conditioning and also air pressure to start the engines when they're ready to go. And there is an intake on the front of the fin just above the horizontal tailplane, the front of the fin.
APU.
That's it.
Auxiliary power unit. That is what we're talking about. Thank you, Barry.
Every jet aircraft that comes into Tasmania and from overseas all have an APU.
There you go. We've answered a question today with the help of everyone. Thanks for calling through, Barry.
Okay, bye.
There you go. And if you want to add more to that, you can. 1300 222 936. 1300 222 936. I've got a question that's come through from a 10-year-old boy. And this is actually in line with a movie that I watched the other day. I think it had Tom Cruise in it. It wasn't a great movie. Can you blow up the moon? And what would happen if you did?
Not easily. It would take an enormous amount of energy to blow up the moon. In our current with our current technologies, it would seem extremely unlikely. Even with all of the nuclear arsenal in the world, it would only make a small dent in the moon. On the side of what would happen if you did, the moon would remain in orbit. So if it broke into pieces, it would still remain in orbit around the Earth. So instead of the Earth having a moon, we would have multiple moons, or we would have rings like Saturn if we obliterate it enough. But if we did that, we'd actually lose our tides. So that would be a very significant effect. So if the moon was smashed into pieces and spread out all around the Earth, then we wouldn't get the tidal action that we get from the moon, so which is incredibly important for our ecosystems. So that would be a fairly negative effect.
Okay, so the effects of not having tides for ecosystems, and I wonder if this comes over to you, Dom, what would it be?
There are a lot of what we call animals that live in what's called the intertidal zone. So if you don't have a tide, you would end up, I suppose you would effectively, I know it sounds strange, you would drown them. Also the marshlands, all those types of areas that, for example, the estuary that is the Tamar River would just be at a constant level, which may or may not be a good thing.
Depending on when the moon was blown up.
When it was blown up, you would just end up with a flat, basically a flat tidal system, and yeah, so okay. Lots of different animal species would probably disappear.
What about a meteorite? Would that be a way that the moon might be blown up, an enormous one?
It would have to be of a significant size compared to the moon itself. So, even the meteorite that killed off the dinosaurs, which is our best explanation of what happened to the dinosaurs, is only quite a small body compared to planets and moons. So, yeah, it would have to be something of the order of the size of the moon and not really blow it up, more knock it out of orbit, I guess, would be the issue.
It is 2:30, and before we let you go, I know that you've come along with a bit of a science fact or talking point for the week.
Well, I just I wanted to pick up on a scientist by the name of Alan Turing, who may be getting a parliamentary pardon from the British Parliament. For his alleged crimes, for something he was convicted of. This guy is incredibly interesting. He more than anyone else could be said to have won the Second World War because he broke the German cipher, which was the Enigma code, and gave the British, especially naval superiority. Without that, the Americans might not have even entered the war because it was too dangerous for them to enter the waters. He also designed the idea of the first computer. He came up with this idea of a universal machine that could be programmed to solve, to perform any task, which was the idea of the computer. And then he went and built it. So he was the father of computing and came up with the idea of artificial intelligence. We still talk about the Turing test for whether something is a machine or a human. He was convicted of homosexuality and was chemically castrated as punishment for his crime, and he committed suicide by eating a poisoned apple, poisoned with cyanide. And now they're looking at... I'm not making any of this up. It's all true.
This is a movie script.
And he's actually not as well known as he should be. One reason is a lot of his work was actually secret, and some of his work is still secret because he was working for the military. But he's an incredibly interesting guy, Alan Turing. There's a really good biography of him called The Enigma. I can't think who the author is, but
The Enigma, Alan Turing. Getting a parliamentary pardon.
Not only should he be given a parliamentary pardon, I think he should be given a posthumous knighthood and a statue erected for him in Times Square. So,
Vote 1, Alan Turing. This ad has been written and authorised by Denis Visentin. Thank you very much, guys.
If anyone's a hero, he's a hero.
Thank you very much for coming in. We'll do it again in a month's time. Good on you.
See you then. Bye.